But hopefully there will be another show that comes along, and I'm all of a sudden hot again, and they'll say, we really got to get Rob because he's doing a character that every kid wants to talk to. I live for that stuff. I really, really love it. So it's not like it takes too much time away from me or my family, because I've been very fortunate. Not only do I have a great job, and I'm able to work at something that I love to do, but, I have a healthy child and a lovely wife and people that are relatively healthy. So if I do something that interests people to the extent that they want to come and want me to come, and it will help children feel better or inspire them to do other things in their life and keep them away from gangs and drugs and all of that, because I can be inspirational and give them my story, then certainly there's no time that I wouldn't do it, because I feel that is an obligation that I have, having been so fortunate in my life. But also.
You just heard a sample from my interview with Rob Paulsen that took place many years ago. I was much younger and inexperienced. The technology to conduct interviews was rough and in its infancy back in those days. I was fortunate to interview Mr. Rob Paulsen. My reason for conducting this interview was to build a website that would be about the medium of animation. That website never came to be. Before the website was even a chicken scratch idea on paper, I did conduct a few interviews that consist of a few professional actors from that media, and Rob Paulsen was one of them. Over the course of time, I have seen Rob Paulsen invest in a few personal projects of his own. He created his Talking Tunes podcast, a podcast that I believe started a foundation for people in the animation industry to have more personal interactions with their fans and audiences because of today's internet technology. The Talking Tunes podcasts show that there was a true interest to hear from people who work in an environment that always functions behind the scenes and away from the public eye. Another project that Rob Paulsen had worked on was an autobiography book. There was interviews done around the midpoint of the 2010s, and that was the first time I heard Mr. Paulsen speak about an autobiography. But due to his silly tone when speaking about the idea at the time, it was unclear if his book concept would become an actual passion project and then a real item. One day in February 2022, I ordered a book as an online purchase, had that book in my hands within a week, and when I saw it for the first time in the bookish flesh, I pondered about the excitement that this book had in store. It was Rob Paulsen's autobiography, Voice Lessons. One fact I have to address in this talk, and this might sound like a contradiction. I have not been a follower and passionate fan of every cartoon that Rob Paulsen worked on. I have not had a chance to view a lot of Rob Paulsen's work, even some major shows he's worked on. But the good news about living in today's world is that it is simple and easy to view Rob Paulsen's past and present work due to the power of multimedia. Rob Paulsen has quite a collection of characters, an active performer who has years of experience and fine performances on display. Rob Paulsen also shows to be diverse from a sound point of view regarding the cast of characters he's played. I never heard two characters that sounded or acted the same. Mr. Paulsen has spent most of his life applying his talent to bring a fellow artist's world on paper to life on a screen. With his own memoir, he paints his own life into the pages of a book. The story of Mr. Paulsen might seem simple and cliche at face value. Once you start reading, you come to realize that Mr. Paulsen is a simple man who has a simple point of view about life, and someone who never lost sight of the simple wisdom of life. His story is far from a whining life of vanity and ageism. You discover that Mr. Rob Paulsen came from simple American beginnings. He left home to see if a big dream could become a reality. Due to a lot of hard work and perseverance and a little dash of luck, Rob Paulsen was fortunate to meet and work with some of the grand institutions and high-profile figures in the world of Hollywood. Voice Lessons is both captivating and endearing. What makes it capture your fancy is how Rob Paulsen is able to convey his story to the everyday man with a simple style of articulation. If this man did not have the sharp mind that he has, then his story would only be lukewarm. His memory and attention to detail is what brings out the synergy of every event and moment. You have continuity weaved into the last story and the next story. When drama happens, it comes from a real sympathetic and human place. This book has the honor of making me laugh multiple times. Then there is the sentimental side of Rob Paulsen's story. When Rob Paulsen has to deal with moments of triumph or tragedy, he is always looking for a silver lining in these plot point moments. This attitude helps to reinforce Mr. Paulsen's down-to-earth perspective of life. I'm sure that this mentality has so much to do with his upbringing in the Midwest, Michigan, to be more precise, an attribute that Mr. Rob Paulsen is quite proud of. The priceless tale of his encounter and relationship with the sick little boy named Chad and his family gave Rob Paulsen a deep insight. His work could give blissful happiness during dreadful times. In a strange twist of fate, Rob Paulsen would find himself in a similar situation as Chad. But knowing how little Chad was able to wrestle with his troubling dilemma gave Mr. Paulsen the inspiration to keep on living and to win the day over cancer. It was interesting to see how frankness Rob Paulsen was willing to be from time to time. Nothing confidential or scandalous, but if someone had to tell the life story that was similar to his autobiography, a person would have to express the happiness, melancholy, and dread that life gave them. How does someone ponder, embrace, and then give back those challenges of life in return? I myself can testify the effect a performer can have on a person and their life. Me and my first niece have a good relationship with each other. One of the good bonds we have with each other is our love of certain cartoons. We repeat bits of dialogue, reenact scenes, and talk about how much fun they gave to the both of us. At the end of the day, a good performance mixed with great material can produce a beautiful moment in time for all time. I felt compelled to have this discussion. The reason is a simple one: to give thanks to Rob Paulsen. When I had the privilege to interview the man himself all those years ago, my clumsy self conducted the interview in a sloppy way. That interview could have been a whole lot better. What I remember was that Mr. Paulsen treated me in a classy, friendly neighbor type of way. Looking back now, giving me his free time and willing to hear me, a nobody, was the most touching aspect of that interview experience. He didn't have to accept the invitation, but he did. After experiencing the work of Rob Paulsen, hearing his love and appreciation for the work he does, along with his peers that he works with, I then discovered the human behind Rob Paulsen and the story of his life. Mr. Paulsen proves that life is what you make of it. He also makes a statement in the book that I can wholeheartedly agree with. And I quote, "This book is dedicated to the human spirit. It sounds a bit pretentious for a cartoon voice guy story, but the example of utter courage and the everyday heroes cited herein have been and continue to be a source of inspiration, kindness, hope, and faith for me, family, friends, and fans. We all fit these categories, and we truly are all in this together, kids. So if my story inspires positive action, elicits joy, gives the reader strength, well, that, I believe, is what we're all here to do for each other." Narf. As my father would have said, that Rob Paulsen, he's one of the good ones.